All right. That should fix it. That should fix it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Early morning blues for me, but we're ready to go live. So, guys, what I was talking about, now that I've fixed the sound, was, and welcome to the stream, everyone. I was just talking about the sectors coming into the end of the day, and I was just mentioning here XLB. So that is the materials network. The materials sector. Obviously, a very good sector at the moment. I believe it's kind of finding a little bit of steam. Got energy also finding some gas here near the end of the day, and really utilities also out there. Which I never like it when utilities is out there. It usually shows a bit of defensiveness by Wall Street. So let's talk about this market. And firstly, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. There's already 100 plus people in here. Definitely give us an upvote, like if you can. It does help us out, especially when we start the stream a little bit early here into the hour of power. But yes, very, very important stuff. Now we said, that's gold driving XLB. Yeah, so gold is certainly doing a little bit better here. It's just cracked through that 1780 area, which is the previous support resistance zone. It's a big close for it. Certainly a significant closure out. I am bullish gold into the end of the year. I think I want to see some fairly good signs of bullishness. I mean, basically the problem with gold is we've had a few key kind of, or we've had like a lot of ranging. So you'll see here on the weekly, this is the way I look at it. Even if you break into this area where it is right now, the problem with gold is where's its most logical next conclusion? Okay, 1831, 1832. We all agree with this. It's certainly an area of interest. Then if it breaks through that, then I really get excited about it. So gold here, if we snap these two rejections off, big deal. And that will be something that we follow. We'll start putting gold in the daily show. And this is a big day for it. But in general, it doesn't matter why XLB is going up. Let's have a look at the material sector. Let's go have a look at the daily. You'll notice why we look at this, why I was talking to the private community about it earlier in the week, and why I think it's a bit of a sleeper is because it's starting to base. And whenever we're talking about sector rotations, something I do in the mentoring as well, if anyone's interested, there's a couple of slots open for November. And basically, this is the type of sector that you look at when other people aren't looking at it so much. So the material sector is hated at the moment. No one's looking at it. And just like, a good Warren Buffett quote, you're always wanting to kind of be greedy when others are fearful to a degree, but you want to be smart about it using your technical analysis. And that's, of course, recognizing when you're in an accumulation phase, when you're in a double bottom, when you're in the opportunity to potentially get a good run. And it's the same with energy. We saw the similar base form here with energy. It broke out and then began a very good run. By the time you hear about it or you think about it, it's always going to be up here. So by the time everyone messages me, it's around here. Where you need to be is down here. Can you do it? Yes. You just need that TA action. Dylan says, nothing can pull this market down at this point, lol. Look, the market's doing its standard dance. I mean, let's look at the US 500 here. We'll look at the futures market. Basically, this is the standard dance, guys. It's nothing new. Unfortunately, the reality of trading, the reality is that sometimes it can be a little bit boring. You've got to be patient. You've got to be nimble. You've got to be fast sometimes. You've got to recognize the opportunities. And you also need to recognize the points of importance. So at this stage, we closed 43.50, 43.60 yesterday. It looks like we're going to close right around the same level. Does this mean anything? No, it actually doesn't. It means we're completely neutralized in the market at this stage. You'll notice through the session highs, and this is the futures market, we've hit that 43.75. We've hit that 43.75, which is kind of close to those peaks. And we rejected it there. And we'll find out what happens here in the next 45 minutes coming into the close, because this will be pretty important. We've also got some futures action around that 43.30 as well for after the market, should we get underneath that next logical conclusion of a range like this. Well, of course, we know where that's going to go. The next logical conclusion is going to be all the way back down at the support. So bearish move, bam, straight into the 4,300. Bullish move, bam, straight into the peaks. This is where the bigger decisions get made. If you want to be a big bull in the markets right now, I don't blame you at all, guys. I really don't, because you've seen the US 100 come back to our fantastic ascending channel, which we've seen, bounce many, many times before. You are better off being an optimist than a pessimist in the markets. It's got to be time. It's close. We're getting close here to a period where we're about hitting earnings. And unless earnings, we all expect them. In fact, I'm going to ask the chat here. Chat, is earnings going to be beating expectations or missing them? Tell us. What do you think, big brains out there? What do you guys think? Has Rio based as well? Yep, we can look at Rio. I'll use the American code. Oh, I prefer to use the Australian code just because it has the better technical. But because this is where the real, remember, when you look at a multi-market kind of stock, you're better off checking it out in its home kind of country to get the best technicals. So you'll notice here, no breakout past 102. But Rio certainly creating a base of sorts. Let's have a look at the New York Stock Exchange. See how that's a different technical because it's open. Basically, this is like a futures market. So you can trade it like it's Rio. However, it's more of a futures market because it trades during the lower volume period for this particular stock. Remember, it's dual listed, but it's listed primarily in Australia. This is where the bigger trade happens. This is where the dividends and all the rotation and those types of things occur. So let's see what the chat says. It says beat, but just on like guide lower. I kind of agree with that one. Brian Wilden here. Beat because of price inflation. Most beat. Light energy. Fractoid says, I know you guys thinking tapering is priced in. It's not, and it's happening. Okay. Yep. I think that the thing is that whatever the excuse is, if they sell it, we won't necessarily know that. Muhammad says, I think expectations have been set so low that we will beat. Fair enough. Beat. Guide lower on supply issues. A lot of stocks will go there, beating but bad outlook, beating but bad outlook. Yeah, most people thinking like beat, outlook kind of goes down. And Dave says depends on the company. It will depend on the company, but in general, you need a lie of the land. So if we've looked at specifically anything past the pandemic, it's been in general, overall, other than the first couple of ones, very, very positive across the board, really, across the board. So that's something we want to look at when when we're really like focusing on stocks or focusing on anything in particular. So US 500, it's chop city. It really is. There is no decision made today. I mean, unless you can see something I don't see, I have no idea what you're seeing, but good luck. The way I look at it is you can use the SPY here or the SPX until we get above that 440, which is 4,400 on the S&P 500. If we did that and we had the trough effectively down here, the peak, the higher trough, the higher peak. Hey, if you're still a bear here, would you guys be a bear here? Chat? Would you be a bear here if it did this? You tell me. So we would have broken the trend line towards the downside. That would have been broken up. We would have gotten through 4,400. Okay, sure. There's still little resistances. But is it easy to be a bear up here still? I think it's kind of difficult. Now, if you're a big bear and you're worried and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm feeling some bearish action. I mean, you really need the market to probably short the next couple of days. And I'm not even kidding you. Like, come the middle of this month, which we're just hitting now, come the end of the options expiry this Friday, and then that's the major options expiry, and then run into November. If you notice in November, when we've done the put walls, there's a lot of people bearish into November in the put walls. And that tends to not lead itself to a negative market overall. Also, crypto fans, we will be covering some crypto because I know it's moving quite a lot. Any thoughts on lower VIX? Market seems very, very complacent. The market is, well, the VIX will always drop heavily based on volatility. Remember, it's based on options price. So realistically, if you have a neutralizing market, the VIX will quickly price to that. It's always the way of the world. I mean, effectively, the VIX will go like this. As soon as you drop, you hit a price, you come up, and then you go back down, then you come up and you sit here. So even though you're way lower over here, what will happen is the VIX will initially spike, Then when it comes down to the second one, it spikes again slightly, but it'll be much lower. And then by the time it's neutralizing, the VIX will be always like here. And you might think, well, that makes no sense. It's because it's based on volatility itself. And the initial fear of the unknown, which is the spike itself, is always what the VIX tends to do. It won't hold the price very long. And if you don't believe me and you don't know what you're doing with the VIX and you think you're going to trade it, have a look through history. Even during some of the biggest sell-offs that we've had in previous years, 18, etc., VIX initially spiked. Now, what you'll notice is when you look at the dates here, and you look at the dates that the VIX was spiking on in these weeklies, it almost makes no sense what was going on here. I mean, we had a monster spike here in the Feb area, and then we had that spike where it hit that lowest low, which was around 24th of December 18, and then it instantly rebounded. Now, in this case, the market did rebound heavily because I remember it. But notice that the VIX is very quick to reprice and it never holds for long. So if you're ever trading VIX, you've got to be very quick and super fast because this is the type of thing that you need to be, super aware of. It's not an easy trade. Holding costs are insane. All of these things we watch. So US 500, hour of power. Let's go down to the 5-minute chart. We have to get down and dirty with it. At this stage, it looks like the 43.75 is currently too much for it, that resistance there. If we move over to the US 100, you'll notice that it's hit that 14.8 level. So this is the resistance we had when we were doing the sessions yesterday. Oh, actually in the morning US time. And that 14.8 is the current resistance on the futures. So if you're looking at resistance supports, you've obviously got a very strong resistance through the 14.8, which some people, I believe, have sold off on. That's fair enough, I guess, if that's what they're looking at. And then you've got the big support at 14.6. When we talk about the giant channels and why I say, I can't really blame people for looking for the longer term longs and buying the dips and stuff, it's when you put this chart on, you really understand it. So every time it comes back here, it's just been incredible. And that's why if you're playing the law of averages, you're playing the law of quality, you're playing all of those kind of games, it's very difficult to go against something like this. And I don't blame anybody. At this stage, it doesn't look like the market has fully made a decision to go long, and you can tell that in the charts themselves. When you're looking at a chart like this, it's still downtrend. It's currently long leg doji into the end of the day with the high, with the low. But what the good thing about long leg doji is if we get a closure above, it could be an early warning sign for scale. And we get a closure below, it certainly could be an early warning sign for scale or watch out down below because bigger risks are. So I wouldn't mind it if it closes like a long leg doji. Nishanth says, I think earnings would be missing the estimates mostly, except maybe the tech sector and some others. Yes, it just depends what the expectation is on some of the others. So there'll be a lot of misses. I mean, obviously, we're talking about what the expectation is, hitting or missing that. But some will have bad earnings. It just depends how Wall Street, how optimistic they've become. Now, I've also got another thing that I want to discuss before we get to Tesla, before we get into the specific stocks and the crypto markets, and that is IWM. So this is probably a bit of an elephant in the room. And some people have been messaging me and they're saying, and look, you can see it in the pricing today. The hyper stocks are actually doing okay, but they move a lot, as we know. And some people said, well, the Russell 2000, Tom, the smaller caps, they tend to lead the market into kind of badness and out of badness. And that is true. And I'll probably mention this in the video today. If you notice when the market started turning around, weakness that came in 18 when the Russell started to turn over here, and then the rest of the market went down a lot, the IWM reacts both positively and negatively very harshly to good and bad news. Like, look how far it went down here, 173 to 126 back in 18. During the pandemic, we went 169 all the way down to 96. And then, of course, the ramp was extreme. And that ramp happened. And when did it finish? In February. So in February, we basically topped out. And that entire time, what has happened? The Nasdaq and the S&P 500 have grinded higher. At the same time, the small caps have not. So when you're talking about a serious market kind of move in the future and predicting maybe further growth in the S&P, what you'll generally see, and this is just a good thing to keep in the back of your mind, is if you have a channel like this and this channel breaks the downside, it's a precursor. Bad things are going to happen to the markets as well. And the markets will be falling at the same time. But more importantly, on the bull side, because the bull side's always slower, if we close out above here, what do we expect to happen, chat? What happens if we close out above here? Tesla is mooning as we speak. Yep, Tesla's going well. Look, we have expectations now for Tesla. Tesla broke 800. We like Tesla. I actually don't even mind Tesla cars, but Tesla customer service is shocking. I'm sorry, guys. It's not good. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. I actually asked them while I was in the store last time. I said, hey, do I get a YouTube special? He's like, you get an affiliate code when you buy one. I was like, oh, that's not very good. It doesn't work. Zillow breaking out. Yeah, we've got Zillow Diz. We'll look at Zillow very, very soon. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You drew the line. I wonder what happens. Well, yeah, that's true. I accidentally put it there. But yes, this will lead, and then you'll expect that kind of really big gains to happen in IWM. And what you'll probably notice is a slowdown in the S&P and the NAS, and then they will boom to it. So it's a good little tip to kind of think about, especially on the bull side. IWM goes crazy. It starts to consolidate. Often the gains actually because remember, it's rotation. It's Wall Street rotation in its finest form. That's what you're looking for. And when you go into the next couple of years, guys, I'm telling you, the biggest thing about the next couple of years is always going to be that we are moving into a transitionary market from a huge V shape to a standard market condition. And many of you out there have never traded a standard market condition. You've only come in the last, let's say, year and a half. I mean, hands up, who's been here for in the markets more than 2 years? And actually just tell us, how long have you been trading for and investing in the markets, guys? Let us know. Let's see how many people have never experienced the boring years where you really need to understand rotation. And that's what changes the game. That's when a lot of people quit the markets and they move out. So let's take a look here at Tesla. Was up 1% before. Looks like it just made a new high, and that was cool. So nothing really changes in this one. I mean, supply chain shortages, you probably is subduing it. So what happened to Apple over here, where Apple is down 0.73%, 140 on Apple, which is a big thing. We'll talk about it soon. That is probably subduing our 800 break, because remember, it happened after the market. They announced this. However, if we look at the news, Tesla was able to navigate that issue in the market much better than other companies. So Tesla's earnings is in 7 days. Big deal. We've got earnings. We've got big YouTubers, and I'll say this, that I think cover Tesla pretty well. And I'm not going to name anyone in particular, but look, they cover it pretty well. They're very optimistic coming into this earnings, and I don't blame them. I mean, the market clearly is optimistic as well. But the thing that interests me more than actually the optimism into the market is probably the seasonality with Tesla. So historically, it must usually miss its October, because otherwise, why would it statistically be down during October? October is not actually the great month for Tesla. But the November ramp and the December ramp, specifically the December, the last couple of years, has been very, very good. And you'll notice that November, December into January, because look at January, all very high percentage win rate months. So if you see your technical analysis agreeing with the statistical analysis of, the data that comes out, and obviously last 20 years, this is not 20 years because Tesla hasn't been around that long, but you'll notice that. And you also can see a few things here about how it's a retail traded stock. Take a look at Mondays. Mondays and Tuesdays statistically more likely to be bullish than Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. How weird is that? That can only mean one thing: retail. Because retail, they get paid on Friday and they come into the market on Monday and buy. That's really a retail. It's so obviously retail. It's hilarious. It's different to other stocks when you get a Monday being the biggest session. It's crazy. All right, let's see what everybody says here in terms of when they got into the market 2 hours ago. Says Caleb. Wow, Caleb, you are new, fresh. I'm not sure if that's a joke, but that's hilarious. JM says 6 years, 2 years here, 6 months. Wow, Busty, I thought you were around for longer than that. Chupa, 4 years. AJ, 1.5. Silverliner, 10 years. A veteran. And Reza, about the same as me, 12. William Wilson, 23. So that puts you in, .com. So you got into just before the .com. Makes sense. That's usually when a lot of people start. I would have expected heaps of people to start, about AMC time, which we'll take a look at, and about obviously pandemic, and then before that, probably 19. Actually, 19 was a big ramp year. We had the rise of Tesla, the rise of a couple of hyper stocks, and a lot of people got in around there. That's when it really started very big. Finkin79 says lumber was the canary in the coal mine, showed the initial breakdown of the supply chains. Yeah, lumber price certainly did show it, but the problem is it's so delayed that how can we really, use that as a full-on indicator? Very, very, very low chance. And that's the problem with lumber. Let's have a look at these AMC GMEs. I've got people messaging me saying, Tom, you've got to cover them again. So let's take a look and see if there's anything good here. I don't really see anything fantastic yet, but I can see that GME has moved more. So we have a resistance, let's call it 3860. Actually, it was previous resistance over here as well, interestingly, and a little bit of support. So for some reason, it's 3860, 20 moving average daily, a bunch of rejection wicks, which is the most important part here. And if we do bull through that, then next stop should be around that 41, 80, 42. Now, 42 is where I believe the participation enters. If you close above 42, it's a big deal. You have that weird day of mass volume. And then after that, 41.80, and we move towards 48. So that's what I call the participation phase. That's where things get more exciting from a technical standpoint. We take a look at GME. Hard chart to read. Very speculative. Sometimes you get great levels. Sometimes you just get speculation. And this is a bullish breakout, but it's marginal. So, yeah, nothing much that's insane here yet. We'll continue to watch this point. Talking of crazy things, look at net. Oh, my goodness. That is a very difficult to get into. Like, basically, there was a nice bottom here, but to think that net would be ramped to 157 is just unbelievable to me. I mean, I love this company. You can go back and check it out. You can see my black line here around this 65 and also the $90 price target when it broke through. It was a serious buy down here, but at these prices, wowzers, very crazy. All right, let's take a look at ZM. Not ZM, sorry. I want Z. Don't worry. Don't care about Zoom. We care about Zillow. So Zillow, I believe, is in repair from a technical standpoint. We have the resistances. Okay. We have the little base. We have the retest now of this level. It's hard pressed. I mean, obviously you got a problem in 100 and there will be some profit targets there, but this is pretty serious stuff. And we've followed this stock for way too long. We've got another one as well. We'll check out in just a second into the close. But what do you guys think about the old Zillow? It's 50% plus down on its previous peaks. It was over $200. I'm not sure if the stock's that great, but it has the technical properties that you generally look at. And when you're rinse and repeating technicals and you're purely a recovery based trader and that's your style of trade that you want to be looking at, you could do worse than these types of charts. This is the type of thing that I often look for. And I do think that it's starting to look pretty tasty. We've got 50 moving average here. Let's take a look at the weekly. Let's see what the weekly is telling us, because the story is super important here. Oh, lo and behold, wow, what do we see here? The long leg doji, guys. The indecision candle, the bullish candle. Now, we've seen bullish candles followed up by bullishness into a resistance, and that didn't work out. But here we have a bullish buy. We have a long leg doji, We have a potential for a decision made. And then, of course, we have a problem at 100. But once we get past 100, we really can start to ramp in this stock. So it is a bit of a sleeper. It's not without its own risks. Obviously, you make your own decisions and do your own stuff and all of that type of thing. But it is making the right types of movements. We also have our lightning bolt coming through here. 96 soon should be broken through. That's going to be a lightning bolt completion in terms of the trough, the peak, the higher trough, the higher peak, etc. Very important stuff here. We got Julia D coming in with $5. Hi, Tom. Thank you so much for your great TA. Could you help me look at Disney? I have some calls at 175 expiring in November. Need to act now. All right. Well, I won't be able to help you specifically with your call strike, but we'll look at the technicals. And thank you very much, Julia, for the donation, if you know what I mean. So we'll look at the technicals. We'll look at the key resistance, the key levels. Joshua says, Tom, can you go over SPLK? Absolutely. I like the SPLK. I know I like the SPLK. So we will check that out. But yes, Zillow was an interest. It is one of the only stocks that I can see here that's been improving over the last couple of sessions. And that's a pretty important point. For anyone that's joining us in the hour of power, we're at 43.62 on the US 500. We're at 14,076.5 on the Nasdaq 14.8 is resistance, and US 500 seems to be around 43.75 resistance on the futures markets. That's probably key resistance zones to be breaking if you're a bit of a miniature bull. At this stage, it is neutralized. That's the way we look at it. Let's bring over to Disney and we do need to go back over crypto, and I know we'll cover that soon because Polkadot is insane right now. Disney is on support. So effectively, we have here a level of support that's come through 170. Disney's at 172. If the market turns, you probably expect Disney to go through. Now, you'll know that I was a big bull last year on Disney, but I feel like they kind of just exploded faster than even I thought they were. They're usually a bit of a lumbering giant. So what that means is they have this slow growth, they have a sugar rush, and then they do nothing for a long time. And if you wanted to look at doing nothing for a long time, go back and have a look at the charts over a period. So you'll notice here between 98 to 2000 to 2011, similar to a lot of tech stocks, they did nothing. It went on a sugar run. Then 15 into 17 into 18, it did basically nothing. And then this whole pandemic style, you got to remember that a lot of their businesses are suffering. So really with Disney, it was all about the Disney Plus story. And when you take a look at the weekly, you can really see that, yes, there is buying here. Because look at these wick rejections, wick rejection, wick rejection, wick rejection, wick rejection. It's all out. There are some funds purchasing. But see that 180? See how big a 180 breakout is for you? You have long leg doji here. You've got a rejection wick, a long leg doji. We want to see bullish pressure above the 180. If we get above 180, the next step is 186. And that should happen at that point. Because from a technical standpoint, breaking 180 is a huge deal. Then 186 is a massive deal. Past that, well, of course, boom. Then we enter participation phase back to 200 for us. So you're at a support. You're at a 50 weekly moving average EMA. This is exactly where you expect support to come in. You are relying on a turn in the market events over the next coming weeks because you're on a timer, and that's the biggest problem. When you're at support, it's tough to make any other decisions, though, other than say you're at support. Plug went bonkers today. Yeah, look, all of these solar stocks and all of these renewable stocks have done incredibly well. We've been talking about this now for a couple of sessions. Plug came in at 33. You'll notice we're getting close to that resistance around 34. And then after you get past that, I mean, the thing with Plug is it has some pretty damn big potential on the last year of ramp. Also notice the month it's going here, October. And we think about when it really started firing last year, around October, and it went mental. Okay, October, crazy. Let's take a look at end phase. So end phase, October, pretty crazy as well. Started in September. This year, we start around the same time. We got that fourth long leg doji. We're going to make a decision made. There's a lot of ramp that could be in a lot of these stocks, like end phase, like the others. And good technicals here. 180 still remains the basic target. And then after that, we've got that 194, 200. And then after that, obviously, you're talking 220 here on this stock. So similar to TAN, similar to all these others, solar ETFs, renewables, TAN recovered. You can see the breakout. You might be missing the initial move now, and probably people are starting to talk about it. And when people start talking about it, you're near. So what will happen is it'll hit this, have a bit of problems, and then the next stop will be when it breaks through this level. I mean, look at this. The entire TAN solar active. Wow. If it breaks through here, 120 and 110 become the next solutions for it. Big percentages. Plug's not solar? No, but it's still in the renewable space, isn't it? Isn't Plug in renewables?
I mean, I don't know this company.
There's too many companies for me to know, but I don't think it's in that area, I believe. Ginny Liao becoming a new member. Thank you very much, Ginny. Appreciate it. Welcome to the community. Great to have you here. Great to have you here. Thoughts on AMD? Sure, we can have a look at AMD. I think there was another one I was meant to look at as well, which we'll check out. I'll just kind of remember what it was. AMD, nice little breakout here occurring, fairly strong. Another stock that seems to be, showing that maybe there is a recovery afoot here in kind of the hyper side. And this is a big breakout for it. I mean, above these two resistances, 108, 108, stopped it twice. It's a big daily closure. Certainly a breakout. Next level, 112. Not much else you can say. We got rejection wicks, long leg doji. The 100 held like a boss. It's coming into earnings now in 14 days. People are probably going to be optimistic on that. The earnings have been very good here for AMD a few times. We saw the last earnings. Let's take a look at the last earnings. So here's the earnings. And then you'll see, bam, straight up after that. You got the earnings. This one was both good, but what happened was it actually shorted off those earnings. Over here, shorted off the actual earnings themselves. Shorted off the earnings, even though they were still good. And then this one, it ramped. How strange. So the July earnings has always been, it goes up after. And then the October earnings, it went down. Even though they weren't that bad. It's a good breakout from a technical standpoint. Plugs hydrogen cells? Yeah, so same thing. What's Bitcoin at right now? You should be able to see it on the screen, man. Bitcoin's 57,000. Can we take a look at pins? We'll see if we can. Uman, $5 TEA on the Googles. All right, we'll do the Googles. So we've got 22 minutes till the market closes. Still sitting around 43.60 in the hour of power. Will Wall Street come in and put a little sneaky sell into the end of the day? We'll have to find out. 43.75 is the resistance for the US 500 at the moment, technically, and US 100 is 14,800. They're the key levels to be looking at. Let's now load up Google. Thank you as well to the almost 800 people here. If you drop a like, it does help us out. Appreciate that. And we'll do some TA on Google here for Uman. The old Googs. So let's firstly assess the situation. So if we go to a monthly, it's going to look like it's on a rocket ship. A hated stock for a while here of the big FANG cats because it was really far behind, and then it started powering actually later in the session. You'll notice there was the low. It was a bit of a sleeper hit compared to like the Amazon rebound and all those types of ones. And then all of a sudden, you get that mass rotation into it. Everyone wakes up to the fact that everybody's watching YouTube and they're going on the internet, and advertisers are changing some of their things. I think there's a bright future here. But from a purely technical standpoint, it kind of looks exactly like the Nasdaq, maybe a slightly stronger version of the Nasdaq. We have a bit of a downward trend line that's kind of coming through here, although it is weak. We've got a 2050. We do have a bit more bullish elasticity because you can see it came straight up and went through the 2050. We have the long leg doji on the daily closure. We filled the gap down. At this stage, there's no real strength in the market where you're like, oh, I'm super bullish or anything like that. Once it gets past 2,800, which we know is a resistance, similar to 15,000 on the Nasdaq, this will be a super key zone, and I believe many bulls will come back into the stock here. But the TA on the daily time frame, there's not much else you can do on Google. It's been pretty dirty on TA recently. It's had like a little bit of resistance here, which is very similar to the Nasdaq itself. 2 hour, just nothing there. If you're wondering where it gets weaker, underneath here. So that will be a peak, a trough, a lower peak, and a lower trough on something like a 2 hour. So once you close, and if we do close underneath 27, let's call it 20, at that point, you're talking about probably seeing Google drop quite a lot, getting back down to at least 2680, if not 2640, and that's when that weakness will happen. Watch the indices more than these big tech stocks, or at least go check out the FANG. So if you're looking at Google and you're looking and you're saying, where do I buy? How do I make decisions? Often looking at the index can give you a good support level. And then you go and you pick up your favorite positions that are quality around there. So this FANG index, I covered it yesterday on the channel. This is the one that I'm watching. I mean, right now it's got that weakness. At the moment, it's not looking that great. And this is actually the weaker looking chart currently, even to the Nasdaq. So if the FANG gets underneath here, I'm going to pay a lot of attention, because that brings us to the 4,900 land. 4,900 will mean the Nasdaq hits our 14,000. That everything kind of works out. But if the bears are going to come in and get the salmon, they've got to do it really quick, because you don't want to go into an earnings season and expect bearish pressure. That would mean that you literally have to start failing to meet the expectations of what the market's saying. Thank you for the donation. James Bunch, $5. Can you have a look at KWEB? Is that a double bottom? Let's have a quick look. KWEB. Yes, it is, sir. It hasn't completed, as in it hasn't actually started. But what you're talking about is a 50. Let me put the support on here. And the resistance. So we got the resistance. Let's get the support down. You are correct. Let's take a look at the weekly. Perfect. Great resistance. 20 moving average. So yes, it looks like it's basing. Big volume last couple of weeks. Pretty big volume in the accumulation as well. Notice that the volume started, I don't know what this is, but notice the volume started to pick up around here in terms of rotation. So it's the China International ETF. How strange that it picked up volume here, not during the sell-off. Could that be accumulation base? Is this even true? Overall, good base. It's an ETF, so you don't really want to do too much TA on it. If it was a stock, it would be better. And if you get through this, then your expectation becomes, that 68, 66 area. Not bad. Thank you very much for the donation. Let's have a look at pins. I said we would. Pins still in our downtrend. Now, someone mentioned there was some sneaky business going on with the old pins today. So let's have a look at the option sweep. Do we have any pins here? I don't have any up-to-date, like crazy options other than a whole bunch of puts probably sitting. Let's actually load up the pins options. 15, 2021. Okay. Still a lot of calls actually opened. So here's the bot just taken from the Discord room. If you want to get a free 7-day trial, click the link in the description below, fxevolution.com. You can come in, get this, get all of our commentary, etc. It's pretty good stuff. So open interest, these are where the puts and the calls currently are. We've got puts sitting around 50, which I guess is a partial wall. And then we've got a lot of expirations here for calls in the future. And I would say that's mostly retail doing that. Let's push it out till next month. So third week of November will be the 19th. So let me just put that 19 in. 19, 11. And we'll go over to a stock that I am looking at the moment. Okay. This is where things get better, I think, for the bull side. So notice here in the 19th, we have a huge amount of puts floating around these strikes. So 55, 60, 65. If we're expecting ramp, even though there's calls here, the puts slightly outweighing the calls or being very equal to it, it's in Wall Street's best interest to actually push this stock up. Interesting stuff. So the call wall and the put wall become much better coming into November for bullish action. This is consistent with a lot of stocks right now. So we've got the downward trend. We've clearly got a 20 moving average problem on the daily. We break through there, trough, peak, higher trough, higher peak. We'll watch. We'll be nimble. We'll be fast. And yes, I haven't given up on pins into earnings, but I need to see more. And I think a lot of people need to see more from it. Let's check out a couple of others that are recovering right now. The old Roku finally looking better here into the close. So this is 10 minutes off the close now. Markets coming slightly bullish into the close, slightly. Not enough really to say much, but a lot of these hyper stocks, you got trough, you got the peak, you got the higher trough. Do we get that higher peak breakout? We have rejection candle, a bunch of weakness, a pretty key little important zone, and suddenly Roku seems to be looking better. It's gotten through the 20 moving average. It's really showing strength into the end of the day. Certainly one that at the close, should the market be going more bullish and you've got that bullish bias, not bad. Not bad. Not fantastic. It's like one of those ones where people take a little nibble. Speaking of nibbles, here is the take two. Still looks fine. Nothing really wrong with that. Hit the first take profit, then came down. And Twillo, I want to look at Twillo. Here it is. So Twillo really ramping here. This has broken quite a few key things today. So we've got our downtrend that's been broken. We actually ramped through our resistance. So if anyone picked this up this morning and they've been trading it through the day or they're holding it through the day, congrats to you. I think you found a good zone. I would have preferred to probably look for a nice closure above. So you might have looked for that 1 hour and then started scaling into it, or at least looked for, maybe you have a strategy where it's a partial breakout, but the story is good here. So we've got a series of higher lows coming in, higher lows. The story is incredibly good. It gets through the previous support, which becomes resistance. And then, bam, we get that resistance breakout and we get that huge ramp. 350 is the first, but I think there's more in this. We could go to 370 even before earnings. So Twillo, certainly a very, very powerful stock right now in the markets. Jason says, I'm up 7% on Zillow already. That's good, man. But just remember, don't try to buy too many things in the base unless you're very sure that base is finding it, because you can be wrong and you can get stuck into barber style situations. SPLK, people asking about this. I'm not sure why we need to talk about it every day other than it looks fine. No problem with SPLK. You guys know I'm looking at it from the longer term. I mean, you've got I believe, the inverse head and shoulders. I'm not expecting it to go fast. I never did. And it's got a new high on it today, and that's fantastic. We move forward. I think there's problems up here. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think this 170 kind of 2 area is an issue. But in general, SPLK, we talked about it down here. We got lucky with that initial move. Then it's been holding very well, and this is very solid from a TA perspective. That's right, Jan. Yep, Twillo's breaking out. Yeah, I agree, Jad. Very good. Mark M, $5. You say to enter on the breakout of resistance, but what if we want to ride the 1 to 12 million trend? What? 1 to 12 minute? What do you mean? What if we want to ride the 1 to 12 trend? I don't know what that means. Maybe it's too early in the morning and I don't realize what you're saying. How do we set our stop loss? So if you want to ride, like, let's just say in general, you want to ride trends, then you need to use moving averages. If you currently use a trailing stop loss that's a fixed level, that is incredibly bad and you will fail long term. That is the reality. Trailing stop losses suck. Okay. They suck. They're for noobs. Now, if you trail through a series of peaks and troughs where you make a new higher peak and then you put it behind the trough, you put it behind the trough and you do the ultimate trading masterclass, yeah, it's a very solid technique. If you trail it by a moving average that it's been pulling back to, and then you put a moving average behind it that it hasn't been wicking into, hey, that's smart. That's big brain. You have a happy face. If you use, oh, I trail by $1 because I'm smart and I got big brain, yeah, you're going to get smashed. I should know. I did it. So I'm not saying that you're stupid because I've done it before in the past, but yes. Thoughts on Tesla? Nothing much. The only reason it's a little bit weaker today, I believe, is the Apple supply chain problems. So I think that's kind of lacklustering it. Daily closing here is a long leg doji. So a little bit of indecision. People expect it to be at 880 in a day. It's not going to happen. It takes a little while, guys. But at this stage, the technicals still look incredibly good. And you've just got to read the story. The story is good. Ginny says, Tom, I have short 300 calls on Zoom. Why so many calls on Zoom? What, naked shorts? Oh. Well, firstly, I don't like naked shorts on calls. The market is overall an optimistic beast. Putting in non-covers, so non-covered calls, is very, very risky because you have unlimited upside risk, as you would be well aware. A hyper stock such as Zoom, it can turn at any point. So, yes, I mean, do I hate this stock? Sure. Have I been negative on it for a long time? Sure. I don't believe in it and I don't think it's got any moat and all sorts of bad things. But you can't discount the fact that when it ramps, it can ramp very quickly. So you've got to be kind of careful there. Are your calls at risk? I have no idea. I mean, at this stage, it's in a downtrend. But if the whole market turns, then yeah, I'm sure they are at risk. People asking about Futu, Fubo, those types of things. Well, Futu is just sitting on the stock low. Fubo here is much better. So that's actually not too bad. First stop 28, next stop 30. It's actually not bad stock. A lot of these smaller stocks are doing better. Let's have a look at Spot. I mean, even Spot looks much better. A lot of the hyper stocks is actually coming awake here. A few weeks ago, I looked at a lot of these and I said to you guys, I can't see anything positive. These are mostly positive looking charts now. And remember, it can start from the bottom up. So these are the types of positions. You know, here's DKNG. DKNG finding a base. We break above 51. Hey, much more bullish here. Let's have a look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA stuck in the middle of nowhere land. That's a bit boring. Apple still shows weakness, but nowhere near the weakness that it had in the session. And we are only a few minutes off close. So let's bring up the two markets here into the close. We've got the US 500. We've got the US 100. It is chop city in terms of the markets themselves. So if we're going down to a 5-minute chart, you'll notice we had the 43.75 act as resistance twice, 3 times now, 4 times over here. We are stuck in a miniature range on the 5-minute chart. There's the US 500 as far as I see it. And I'll just quickly load up this US 100. Let me set this up for you guys. Coming into the close, we've got 14.8 on the resistance side. And really on the support side, you're starting to clutch at straws in terms of where even a good support is. I mean, 14.6 is very easy to see. And I guess that's what you'd go with. So big ranges here. You can see it's buying, selling potential. That's what we call chop city. Boring on the indices. Some hyper stocks certainly looking much better than the market itself. Blue Maserati, did Tom miss my super chat? Let me have a quick look here, Blue. Dave will probably bring it up to me. Oh, 1 to 12 months. Oh, okay. Yeah. If you try to follow something from 1 to 12 months, then you're just using swings, man. Super easy. Just wait for the new peak to be formed, put it behind the higher trough. I mean, very easy. Very, very easy. So much easier. In a good uptrend, you'll be surprised how often that keeps you in. Give it a little bit of buffer behind. Fantastic stuff. Don't know if we've got blue, but I do want to give a shout out to Sandola. I think you gave me a coffee yesterday tip. And if you're there, Sandola, appreciate it. I'm not sure if I gave you a shout out. Blue Maserati, $5. GNRC. How about it, Tom? Weird price action this AM. What would you do? And do you like it for a swing? We'll take a look at it soon. So market's coming into the close. Nasdaq, the stronger of the markets here. Looks like it wants to go for that 14.8. And we just closed then. So 14,782. Stuck in a range. You guys can see it. Chop City near the close. Some stocks look good. Some of the hypers look good. But the rest of the market is in nowhere land. And that's the problem. Talk about Polkadot in a sec. So let's do this. GNRC. Interact. What time frame did you like? Price of the AM looked good, then it sold off, I guess. Yeah. Weekly. Okay, so weekly 20 is currently holding, similar to the market. Weekly 20 is where it's at. Long leg doji. Don't hate it. I don't know why that's gone down. There we go. Yeah, don't hate it. Seems to be just in a giant channel on the bigger time frame. So basically, you've got kind of like a support buying through this kind of close here. And then you've got resistance at the 459. So I wouldn't say it's like in a massive swing from that perspective. 4 hour. So I think your process here is that we've formed base, which is totally fair. You've broken out, in your opinion, here, or you broke out today. Does it look more strong? It's way more bullish than bearish from a price action standpoint. It's not fantastic with today's close. We should have seen this hold stronger. But it's on a base. The next logical target is the resistance of 460. And if it breaks through, then you've got a really great target being your channel. So there could be some targets on targets on targets that you're looking at here. It's kind of just a nice, potential zone if you like this type of stock. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, I usually do the crypto post markets because the crypto is less important for the market close itself. Check out TDoc. Yeah, we'll do that soon. Garrett Self, $5. Good evening from Arkansas. Or in this case, it's Arkansas. I don't even know. DE has an employee. You guys have fun with me on this one. An employee walkout scheduled tonight. What type of effect do these things usually have on short-term price action? Oh, possibly a little bit of weakness and then just doesn't matter and it's irrelevant longer term. The thing with DE's chart, though, is you're back on support. And I've talked about this being in a sugar rush. Speaking of sugar rushes, you can go check out CAR right now. That thing's going crazy. And I'm sure that will end badly. But here we're in a massive channel and we're at that support. Now, you break past this support. I don't have to tell you how crazy that is and how important that is, because all of a sudden you're talking about a monster short off that could go the whole distance of the channel, which pulls you back to 260. So it's not that I don't think it much of those types of ones. You got to think about the Volkswagen crisis years ago where all the governments fined them and how the market really reacted to that. You've got to think about the seatbelt saga with Toyota, and these are different sagas. But every one of those that I've ever seen, even walkouts with airplane companies, it tends to do very little to the stock, maybe slight negativity. I mean, Peloton copped really bad press with a really bad problem, and obviously people died, and the stock actually went up after that. Like that was actually the bottom, and then it went up. It was selling off into that news. So I think you've got to be less about, oh, I think it's going to react this way. You can't tell. It's a coin flip at best. You can only go with the price action itself. Microsoft isn't boring. It's boring. But making profit isn't boring. So it's boring from the fact of it's been good recently. It's had some great ramps. I don't disagree with that. But I believe it's in a transition to become a boring stock again. And there was a time, people forget, where Microsoft did nothing for years. You go back pre-Office 365, holy moly, this stock was boring. I mean, you could not own Microsoft and be happy about it for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden comes that 16, 17, and look at the ramp since they moved to pay per month. Holy moly, they made money, and cloud and everything. At the moment, Microsoft's just all this buyback stuff plaguing everybody. PK Subban says, all my stocks are green, all hyper stonks. Yeah, it's good. It's good. All right, let's do some crypto. Because crypto. So firstly, Bitcoin continues its ramp here, 57K and a bit. People worried about it yesterday. I don't think you'd necessarily have to be worried about this. It's pulled back twice now, find buyers twice. Look, Bitcoin will stop ramping eventually, and it will start to consolidate. And as it consolidates, the other coin markets will do better. We know this. We've seen it before. It's the way this market works. It's not sophisticated. It's super basic. But I think the story of the day is probably in the Polkadots. So Polkadot here breaks out 36, and it's going towards all-time highs here at 48. Now, I've talked about Polkadot for quite some time. I've been a big fan of the project, and I do think that this project is one of those ones that's in the ecosystem for the long haul, and it has several cool things. I don't mind Ikala as well, and Karura and all these other coins that have kind of based on the Polkadot-y kind of concepts. So 48 becomes the next logical target for people to push forwards. I've got 44 first, then 48, the two $4 increments. And if it gets past 48, then we really could be seeing even further ramp. The one thing about crypto coins is that when they start to go, if everyone gets on board this kind of thing, it often does ramp for a couple of days. And we've seen that happen with certain stocks and certain coins. I mean, most likely, it's not going to be a SHIB style situation where it goes bullish, 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 because this is pure FOMO. I mean, we know that SHIB is a pure FOMO play. DOT, we need to look at the left-hand side. So remember, when you're looking at crypto, when you're looking at anything, how have the previous ramps gone? When they start, do they continue? When they start, do they continue? When they start, do they continue? These are the questions you want to think about. So you get those big bullish breakouts. Do they tend to follow up with nice action? And they have in some circumstances, but before that crash that happened in the middle of this year, you'll notice that we did have a very nice ramp day. It hit straight into resistance and then failed. So yeah, I look at this from the perspective of it seems to be doing something that I haven't seen it do in a while. It's breaking out pretty hard. And this is breaking a good resistance that it's tested twice. So traditionally, it should move towards those 48s, those 50s. Junior says, Arkansas, Tom. All right. Finkin79 says, SHIB has held up surprisingly well, give us the ridiculous ramp. I think, look, there's so many YouTubers covering it. A lot of people are still buying in with expectations of it going long. I think that's a big help to some of these coins. One of my favorites, the old KSM, still isn't even through the resistance yet. So DOT, in comparison, is caning KSM right now. So this could be another one that's a beneficiary of the DOT move. You get through this 364. Where's the next stop for KSM? I mean, 400 obviously, but 450, 440. 440 for KSM. So big closures could be on the horizon for some of these crypto coins. ADA, still way sicker. We still maintain that 232. So the polka dots is going well and it's getting that ramp rotation. The KSM is going well, but the Ethereum is stagnant. Ethereum, we've got 36. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the coin markets moving forward. You get through key zones, you move to the next zone. That's the traditional way. And then we talk about seasonals, and maybe we'll do a bit of a special on crypto and where we see it going. I think it's kind of reminding me of 17 still. I know people say, well, it can't be 17. The pullback was too severe. It kind of looks like 17. What's the chat think? What do you guys think out there? Can you check plug? We looked at plug before. Plug was fine. Looked pretty strong. Giovanni says, Tom, how are you going, bro? Yeah, I'm going well. Thank you, Giovanni. Got my coffee. Feeling good in the morning here. Afternoon, obviously, in America. We're looking at the best markets in the world. What can you do? Not for dividends, though. Australia, number one. Dividends in Australia? Oh, yeah. You can only wish you had divs like us, guys. You can only wish you have divs like us. When you get those sweet dividends that are upwards of 10% on the major companies, sometimes it's pretty crazy. I use Coinbase. Fair enough. FBTC at a monthly channel. It's a great chart to look at. You've got big brain for looking at this. Absolutely. If you're looking at, what is this? If you're looking at ETH versus BTC, it's a very good chart to look at when you're thinking about, okay, are we getting a ramp here coming in for, let's call it Bitcoin, or is Ethereum about to start looking a lot better than it was? I mean, we did this a while ago back in early 2021, and we talked about this breakout here, and all of a sudden it ramps very, very hard. You've got that 0.08 kind of area. And what you generally can look at this chart is you learn from the left-hand side. So if we have the left-hand side and we think about what happened, is ETH to BTC ran hard into May, okay, into May, June. What did it do this time? A little bit earlier, March into May, okay. Then it sold off massively in comparison to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin obviously ramped up, and it ramped to around that November period. So do we expect, Ethereum to be incredibly strong right now? No. I mean, we expect Bitcoin to be stronger based on this kind of scenario. And then, of course, the alts came through to the party, and then that was the end. So in some ways, there are similarities to 17. You might be clutching at straws a little bit, but for me, it comes down to, I've always said November should be, the October into November should be relatively strong. September probably deserved to be weak. Did I think the market would fall this much? No way. I thought the best you'd be looking at is around 30% pullback. So to pull back from 60 all the way to 30 was more than I thought, and more than a lot of the punters out there, I guess, in this would have thought. But it's looking strong. It's looking like it wants to break a new high. Bitcoin, this is. And when you look at a chart like this, it's hard pressed to look at this and not think there's more in it to the gas. Now, where is everyone's December target for Bitcoin? Chat, where's your December target? Let's have a look. Did I look at the Bitcoin dip? Yes. I don't just own Bitcoin, though. I also own a little bit of KSM dot, Karura, Akala, that kind of stuff. Tesla look good today, close above 810. Absolutely. Did SPLK come up? Yeah, I covered it, Lou. I think it looks absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with SPLK. It looks great on a technical. Trading must be tough for you. You mean because of the time frame? Well, we could trade the Australian market. There's nothing wrong with that. Or a lot. Look, the thing with trading is people think that you have to put a ton of time in. If you scalp, sure, you do. If you swing trade, you need to put a lot less time in. And obviously, if you trade the options market, especially crediting, you don't need to put much time in at all. Yeah. It's all about time management. You burn out otherwise. The reason I'm here 12 years later is because my time management has gotten better. Believe me, I burnt out. So I started back in 08. I was burnt by 2010, sorry. I was burnt. And then between that period and maybe 2011, I had to consolidate. That's just the reality of the situation. You will burn out. Luckily, I had enough passion to continue, because this period here, 2008 to 2010, oh my goodness, the stress level, the madness, the poor decision making, all the things that many people do, I have done, and that period was one of it. What's your fave coins to trade? Fave coin would be Bitcoin, and then the next coins would be the Pokemon dots and ETH. Yeah, I like ETH. That's it. I don't really particularly like any of the other coins to trade. Polka dots is not actually very technical in comparison. If you want the two most technical, it's going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe a little bit of Cardano. There's a reason I've got them here. Bitcoin and Ethereum are very technical. The other coins are not. Rocktopus 306 says, Tom, you're the best. Thanks for everything this year. No worries, man. Glad you're doing well. That's good to hear. Takula Kevin says, China will pull down markets, including BTC 50K. BTC always gets attacked by China. I mean, when's the digital yuan must be around the corner? That's going to be an interesting point in history when we see that come out. Very interesting. So people's expectations for Bitcoin, 90K, 124K from PK Sub, and 92K. Van Man says 120K. Hey, you might be right eventually. 70K, 75, 46, 69, or 6 bazillion, 90. Well, it's good to see you guys have expectations that I think are in line with the potential. Yeah, around that 90 is probably what I think as well. I know that sounds crazy to some people, but 90. Finken said, you got the pronunciation of Arkansas correct, and then you stuffed it up. Yeah, well, that's the Australian way, man. We cut it short. It's kind of like when you watch those Simpsons episodes, and I always remember that Simpsons episode where Marge is like, coffee, I want a coffee, and he's like, beer, and she's like, coffee, and he's like, beer, and she's like, coffee, and he's like, beer. That's the way we do it in Australia. We do what we do. Unfortunately, I think over the last 12 months, though, many people have thought that in Australia we're a different breed because we've been locked down for so long. But not all of Australia is like that, remember. It's only my city and one other city, the two major ones. And we're free soon, so that's going to be pretty cool. So yes, the crypto market sounds pretty good. Just to recap the stock markets, we will be doing a video on this. Please subscribe if you enjoy content that covers the markets. We have markets that have closed with basically indecision. US 100 here, 14,778, and the aftermarket, 14,800 being the resistance. We'll cover that today in the video. From the perspective of what happened during the day, was there anything super bullish about this type of candle? Not really. I mean, it's starting to look like it's trying to get up there, but until we close past 15K, you can't be, sure we're out of the loop. This would be a trough, a peak, a higher trough, and a higher peak, and that's a significant lightning bolt. That's significant, and we have come through, hitting our broadly based trend lines. So I'm kind of hoping for a little bit more dip. If it doesn't occur, whatever, that's fine. We'll go with the other way as well. And we are almost in earnings. So if the bears are going to take control of the market, they need to do so right now very quickly. And that's our kind of scenario. Remember, most corrections, and this is why I don't blame people for thinking about these market conditions right now. Most corrections go between 8 and 12% in the Nasdaq and around 8 to 10% on the S&P. So you don't usually get much in them. That is a standard correction. Not every dip is going to be a very specific, it's going to be 20%. It's just not the way it is. Joanne says, Tom, did we close red or green on the Nasdaq? Slightly green. It looks better than it is because The real market you'll see here is 0.77. If we go to SPX, it's 0.3. Chinese New Year will be the one. Chinese New Year just before was what stopped the Bitcoin cycle last time. Yes. Tom, what do you think given about Roku long at this current price? Hey, I did it, Giovanni, before. I literally bought Roku up. I liked the chart. It had a good closure on it. It's a solid closure above these kind of resistances. Trough, the peak, the higher trough. From a technical standpoint, looks like it's trying to recover. A lot of these hyper stocks look much better. We have not seen days other than today where the hyper stocks have come good across the board and started to actually tip around. They're kind of marginal positions right now, some of them. But yes, look, I mean, they're all kind of doing it, like spot breaking out past the resistance. Let's have a look at the PLTR. No, PLTR. This thing. What else we have? Twitter. No, that's in the middle of nowhere land. AMD broke out. Net's just on its own level. Let's have a look at TTD. TTD breaking through as well, the downward trend line. You know, lots and lots and lots of hyper stocks looking much, much better. All right, guys. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us for the close. Bitcoin, crypto markets, exciting stuff there. Stock markets, less exciting. We'll come back with a video recapping it all. I'll check out the options in a minute, have a look whether we've got any updates there, and I'll put that in the video, see whether we've got any sneaky Wall Street action that I haven't seen just yet. And it was another kind of uneventful day, even though the Fed came out and they said all these things. I mean, did they say anything that important? Not really. Basically, we will have taper. They're going to do it. They're going to change bond purchases, and it's all going to be there. Remember, if you're not using something like a news feed like this, so you don't have to actually read anything, you can come here quickly. Whoever this is actually not bad. This little website, probably put this one in the video. Just a quick synopsis of what happened. FOMC minutes. The process of tapering could commence. Oh my God. In either mid-November or mid-December. Yeah, could or just will. Let's face it, it's probably will. Could commence is just because they're scared of the market. We know that. Will be the way it is. This is not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is probably interest rates. Interest rates are the discussion point that most people will be talking about in the future. So we keep looking at the 10-year and we wait for the price action. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon. And remember, subscribe, smash that like if you enjoy it. Mina says, is Tesla's today's consolidation a good sign? There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad sign. It's a neutral sign. So if you have the neutral sign, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a bit of neutralization. I mean, it's still up 0.67%, still in line with the Nasdaq. But yes, you are correct. It's a little long leg doji on the daily. Closure above, hey, even more bullish. What's not to like currently about this chart? There's nothing currently wrong with it. All right, catch everybody. Bye for now.